Hello everyone and welcome to this YouTube video on the psychology of deception. In today's episode, we will discuss how criminals use lies and deception to commit crimes, and how you can detect them. Let me start by sharing an anecdote. Imagine that you are in a job interview, and the interviewer asks you a question that you don't know the answer to. What would you do? Would you admit that you don't know the answer, or would you make up a lie? Research shows that most people tend to lie in such situations. This is just one example of how lies and deception are a part of our everyday lives. However, when it comes to criminal activity, lies and deception can have far-reaching consequences. Criminals use lies and deception to manipulate their victims, gain their trust, and ultimately commit crimes. Understanding the psychology of deception can help you protect yourself from such situations. Let's first understand how criminals use deception to commit crimes. Research shows that criminals use various strategies to deceive their victims. One such strategy is to create a sense of urgency. Criminals may make their victims believe that they are in danger or need immediate help. This sense of urgency often makes the victims act quickly, without thinking rationally. Criminals use deception to exploit the vulnerabilities of their victims and to manipulate them into giving up their money, personal information, or property. Creating a sense of urgency is one of the most effective ways for criminals to accomplish this. In many cases, criminals will use fear to create a sense of urgency. They may claim that the victim's safety is in jeopardy, or that they will face severe consequences if they do not act quickly. For example, a scammer may call a victim and claim that they are from the victim's bank, stating that there is suspicious activity on their account and that they must transfer their money immediately to a safe account. The urgency created by this false sense of danger can cause the victim to act without thinking critically. Criminals may also use false promises to create a sense of urgency. For example, they may offer the victim a significant reward if they act quickly or claim that they have exclusive access to a product or service that is in high demand. In reality, these promises are often too good to be true, and the criminals are simply trying to trick the victim into giving them money or personal information. Overall, criminals are adept at using deception to exploit their victims, and creating a sense of urgency is just one of the many tactics they use. It is crucial to remain vigilant and skeptical when receiving urgent requests, especially if they involve transferring money or sharing personal information. Another strategy used by criminals is to flatter their victims. They may make their victims believe that they are special or important, and use this to gain their trust. Criminals also use deception to cover up their tracks. They may create false alibis or fabricate evidence to mislead investigators. Some criminals even use fake identities to hide their true intentions. Now that we know how criminals use deception, let's talk about how we can detect it. Flattery is another common tactic that criminals use to deceive their victims. By flattering the victim and making them feel special or important, the criminal can gain their trust and lower their defenses. For example, a fraudster may claim that the victim has been selected for a special opportunity or offer that is only available to a select few, making them feel valued and important. This flattery can then be used to persuade the victim to take actions that they may not have otherwise taken, such as giving out personal information or making a payment. In addition to flattery, criminals may also use deception to cover up their tracks. This can include creating false alibis or fabricating evidence to mislead investigators. For example, a criminal may plant false evidence at a crime scene or provide false information to the police to throw them off their trail. Criminals may also use fake identities to hide their true intentions, such as using a false name or pretending to be someone else in order to gain access to sensitive information. To detect deception, it is important to be aware of the common tactics that criminals use. This includes being wary of urgent or high-pressure requests, as well as being cautious of flattery or promises that seem too good to be true. Additionally, it can be helpful to verify information independently, such as by contacting a known and trusted source to confirm the legitimacy of a request or offer. Other signs of deception can include inconsistencies in a person's story, such as changes in their story or details that don't add up. Body language can also be a useful tool in detecting deception, as criminals may exhibit signs of discomfort or nervousness when lying. By remaining vigilant and knowing what to look for, individuals can better protect themselves from falling victim to deception and criminal activity. Research shows that there are certain verbal and nonverbal cues that can indicate deception. For example, when people lie, they tend to avoid eye contact, fidget, and use fewer hand gestures. They may also speak in a higher pitch or use more complex sentences to create a false narrative. Research has shown that there are certain verbal and nonverbal cues that can indicate when someone is being deceptive. These cues can include a range of behaviors, such as changes in speech patterns, body language, and facial expressions. One common nonverbal cue of deception is the avoidance of eye contact. When people are lying, they may feel uncomfortable or guilty, and therefore avoid making direct eye contact with the person they are speaking to. They may also fidget or exhibit nervous behaviors, such as tapping their feet or wringing their hands. Changes in speech patterns can also be a sign of deception. For example, people who are lying may use fewer hand gestures or speak in a more monotone voice, as they are focusing on keeping their story consistent. Alternatively, they may speak in a higher pitch or use more complex sentences to create a false narrative and try to convince the listener of their story's validity. Facial expressions can also be an indicator of deception. A person who is lying may exhibit micro-expressions, which are brief, fleeting expressions that indicate a hidden emotion. These may include a fleeting look of disgust, fear, or anger, which may reveal the person's true feelings about the situation. It is important to note that while these cues can indicate deception, they are not foolproof. Some people may exhibit these behaviors for reasons other than lying, such as nervousness or discomfort in the situation. Therefore, it is crucial to consider these cues in conjunction with other evidence and to approach any situation with a healthy degree of skepticism. Overall, understanding these verbal and nonverbal cues can be useful in detecting deception and protecting oneself from falling victim to criminal activity. However, it's important to note that these cues are not foolproof, and it's best to use them in combination with other evidence. Another way to detect deception is to pay attention to the context of the situation. For example, if someone claims to be a doctor but doesn't have a medical degree, that's a red flag. Similarly, if someone makes promises that are too good to be true, it's best to be skeptical. So, what can we do to protect ourselves from deception? Firstly, it's important to be aware of the tactics used by criminals. By understanding their strategies, we can be more vigilant and avoid falling into their traps. Secondly, we should always trust our instincts. If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. Thirdly, we should always verify information and claims made by others. This can involve doing background checks or asking for references. In addition to understanding the tactics used by criminals and trusting our instincts, there are several other steps we can take to protect ourselves from deception. Educate ourselves. We should educate ourselves about the various types of scams and frauds that are common in our area or industry. This can involve reading news articles or attending seminars on the subject. Be cautious online. With the rise of technology, it's become easier for criminals to deceive people online. We should be cautious of emails, texts, or phone calls from unknown sources, and avoid clicking on suspicious links or downloading attachments. Use strong passwords and two-factor authentication. To protect our personal information, we should use strong passwords that are difficult to guess and enable two-factor authentication whenever possible. Be careful with personal information. We should be cautious of sharing personal information, such as our social security number or bank account details, with anyone we don't know or trust. Check financial statements regularly. We should regularly review our financial statements, including bank and credit card statements, to ensure that there are no unauthorized transactions. Seek help if needed. If we believe we have fallen victim to deception, we should seek help from law enforcement or a fraud hotline. It's important to report incidents of fraud to help prevent others from falling victim to the same scheme. By taking these steps and being vigilant, we can protect ourselves from falling victim to deception and avoid the financial and emotional damage that can result from being scammed. In conclusion, understanding the psychology of deception is essential to protecting ourselves from criminal activity. By being aware of the strategies used by criminals and paying attention to verbal and nonverbal cues, we can detect deception and prevent ourselves from being victimized. Remember to always trust your instincts, verify information, and be vigilant. Thank you for watching this YouTube video on the psychology of deception.